This leaders' debate took place actually in the seat of Penrith. It's actually a safe Liberal seat. They hold it by a very comfortable 6%. 100 people who were apparently undecided as to who they would be voting for were in the audience. Several issues were discussed by both leaders. We had cost of living pressures, congestion, also staffing within public hospitals. But it was education, as we just heard, which is where the opposition leader came undone. The question over TAFE funding was basically in relation to a promise that Michael Daly had made that the opposition would be funding at 600,000 TAFE places. And the figure that he gave when questioned how much it would cost was obviously that multi-million-dollar figure. But initially, he said that the funding for that would be $64 million. So he did draw a blank when he was asked about that. And that's when he provided some clarification.
Clarification indeed, and it really comes towards the end of what has been a shocker of a final week of the campaign for Michael Daly, Lara.
Yeah, we did hear a few days ago that those controversial comments in terms of jobs that were being replaced for Australians by people who were of Asian descent and those with PhDs. So quite controversial there, and he did receive some criticism from not only the Premier but also from his side of the party as well. But in last night's debate, it wasn't only the opposition leader who was in the firing line and required clarification. It was also Premier Gladys Berejiklian. She initially had indicated that an extension of road in relation to the WestConnex, or in the M4 rather, there was some confusion as to whether that portion of road would be subject to tolls. Now, she did make that distinction later on in a tweet, saying that the extension of the M4 was not in relation to the WestConnex project, which would be tolled. Obviously, congestion and tolls are a really big issue for Sydney commuters. And later on, we did hear that the two sides, the two leaders, trading barbs over the Allianz Stadium. Now, this has also been a massive issue for both sides of Parliament here. The Allianz Stadium is located in Sydney's east, and it had come to the government's attention that the stadium needed to undertake mandatory upgrades for safety precautions, so in relation to exits and also into seating. Now, the government said that under a business case, it would be more beneficial to actually tear down the stadium, and that the costs for tearing it down and rebuilding it would be reaching about $700 million. We did hear the Premier initially in this debate say that a refurbishment will cost about half of that, but it would be more economic sense, make more economic sense to tear it down and rebuild it. Now, that statement has been rebuffed by the opposition leader, who was saying that a refurbishment is clearly the better option. But when he was questioned on whether it was, and to provide some figures as to how he knew that would be a better option, he says that he wasn't able to provide that. So we do have both sides still debating very much this hotly contested issue. But at the end of the day, with those 100 voters, we did see that Gladys Berejiklian win over about 50% of those 50 people. 25 were leaning towards Michael Daly and 25 were undecided. So it does show you that it's still neck and neck for both of these parties in the lead up to Saturday's vote.